The following production is intended for entertainment purposes only. We are not legal professionals. We do not speak for any government agency, and the opinions expressed here are our own. Relax.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing that my job never consisted of setting up Zoom meetings,
Oh, really?
because I would have been fired. I don't know why this is so difficult for me
Man,
to get it.
I feel like you were on kind of a trajection into like this conglomeration of different agencies and different technologies and stuff in the community policing and
Yeah, man,
intelligence.
I was cutting edge, but I can't
You
manage
were.
Zoom. I can't manage Zoom uh, because I'm still trying to figure out how to record it to where both screens are showing.
Uh-huh.
Can't do that. Um, And then about 30 minutes ago, I started trying to integrate sound effects.
So
And
my screen has it side by side right now.
yeah, but I don't think it's going to record that
Record
way.
that way. Yeah.
But I
Sound
found,
effects.
yeah, and there's one that's really cool. And, you're not wrong often,
Sure.
often enough that I need some kind of a response. But I found the sound effect that when you push it, it goes burr. And so you could do it twice and goes burr, burr. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I could use
Yeah.
this. I could use this quite a bit.
I need the foghorn with wah wah.
Yeah, there were a couple that I wanted, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. Um, the other thing that I wanted is I'm just going to give you a thumbnail that you can use, okay,
Okay. Yeah.
for this video or yours. So I'm just going to smile for a second. Cut. Okay. Because
Okay.
so far the thumbnails all seem like I'm in the middle of ripping a fart because it's like it's in the middle of talking, and so
Yeah.
they're all like,
Those are my favorite. I get to
well,
pick the thumbnail.
I know you do. So I want to give you options for better ones.
Okay, I got you. What it is YouTube randomly suggests three thumbnails, and they're all crap. They're all like me.
Right.
And you.
Right.
So what I've been trying to do is just out of the three, it doesn't matter. One week you, next one me, and I need to get I don't know. I guess just the podcast image would be a good thumbnail, or the podcast logo.
Yeah, maybe. Can you like create your own thumbnail, or is it just whatever they pull?
Well, I know, like, you can upload your own thumbnail. So
Okay.
if you have an image that you want to be the thumbnail, you can select it.
Yeah, well, what I would love to portray is an image of like stability and intelligence and reason. I mean, that's just what I want to portray. None of those are like
Yeah, I
legit,
don't
but
have any of those things.
yeah, but I would like to at least maybe I can manifest those things.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's your truth, brother. You got it. That's your truth.
Speaking of logo, I don't know that we've talked about it, but I super dig that logo.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that?
AI.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, AI. Which version of it? It's not Chat GPT, but it is a free version. I believe it's from Microsoft, but I'm not 100 on that. Oh, and now I can't find it. But it is just that it makes, it's called Copilot. And I believe it's by
Oh, yeah.
Microsoft. Um they will, so it's pretty interactive. Like it's actually amazing. I said, hey, create a podcast logo and utilize, because I it also learns. I had been like telling it to give me suggestions on like video descriptions or like descriptions of the podcast. I'm like, me and Justin are both retired cops. I'm former Navy, and it gives me like all these ideas for you. I think the idea is for you to take and make your own.
Yeah.
But if you want to be lazy, it comes with kind of finished products. And
Yeah.
so I said it remembered all the inputs that I had put into it before, of like, We talk about fitness. We talk about spirituality. We talk about law enforcement. And I said, create a logo for my podcast. And it came up with that. And I was like, fucking A, Copilot,
Yeah.
you nailed it.
That's cool. What's kind of funny about that is I didn't know that's what Copilot is.
Uh-huh.
And so every time I use a Microsoft, like my laptop is Microsoft, it's always to ask me about Copilot. And I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear about Copilot. I didn't even know what it was. To me, it was like the little paperclip that Microsoft used to have. And it was just a nuisance. But I had no idea that I could actually
it will up your game. I stopped going to college, dragging it out, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I was going to University of Oklahoma online.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I had AI been like it is right now back then.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how they can stop it. Because you can say like, write me that's the thing is if you're signed in your account, it's constantly learning your voice. It's constantly learning your mannerisms, even like your grammatical mistakes. Sometimes it learns that. So like write a 5-page essay in my voice and list all or cite all sources.
Yeah. I know that, I've seen before where you can have it write an essay and then have it was like a question of, does this appear to be written by AI? Make it to where it doesn't appear, whatever. And I don't know if that's accurate, if that actually works, but yeah, I could see how it'd be really difficult to be a professor.
Yeah. Well, you have to have AI software to spot the AI. That's the only way that's the only way around it, because it's already to the point, like sometimes you can see like an extra finger or not enough, or sometimes like an extra hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see that, but it's correcting itself every time it makes an image, and you because you put input it into the commands of like, no, you have an extra hand on that. It'll create an image just like it without that extra hand. It's learning. It's gonna get to the point where it's unrecognizable to the human eye. They already have those videos. It's making videos.
Yeah, which I want to talk about. But there are sometimes, like in real estate, for example, I feel like I can spot an AI generated listing, or not listing, but marketing remarks, because they're always super long. And having written my own marketing remarks since I've been doing real estate, I know how difficult it is to come up with good descriptions that don't include things like cozy, beautiful, charming, blah, 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 all the buzzwords. But one of the first clues to me is when it's freaking like a page description, like all 3,000 characters or whatever we can use. And I'm like, come on, you didn't write that. Right. But then there are words in there that just, it's almost like when you get an email from, say, India or something, and you're like, that's not really a normal way to speak, which it sounds like is what you're talking about. Like it learns how you would talk.
Yes. Yep. It's a double-edged sword in the perspective of the AI, because what's making it make those mistakes is all the input, because it has input from the internet, which is infinitely, at this point, infinitely large. So it has input from all that. So it's too much input, which is what's making it make those mistakes. But the only way to stop it from making those mistakes is to give it more input.
Yeah. Now, can you, so I guess when you're using Copilot, it's just taking your input. So it doesn't care how I speak. It doesn't care how somebody in wherever, it's just taking how you would talk.
Yeah. So far, I know with Chat GPT, and I think I only use GPT-4, and I think GPT-5 is out now. I'm not for sure on that, but I believe I've heard that, which is supposed to be like a whole new level. But on GPT-4, I would say like write a description of here's the input on this house. So I did this specifically on videos. Here's the input of this house. Write a 3-paragraph invitation to an open house with these things and make it in the voice of Theo Vaughn. And
Okay.
it would do some funny thing. I'd be like, okay, more professional on the 3rd paragraph, and it would do it again. And so it was constantly taking
Yeah.
that. I suppose GPT-5 is, they said it was supposed to be like a whole new level.
Yeah. One of the things that I think would be super helpful with AI in yours and my business, and I haven't figured out how to do it, but surely there's data that will tell you what types of ads, what words, what things get clicks, and what are successful ads. And I mean, clicks is one thing. That's one way to measure it, but
You're talking about search engine optimization?
maybe. But what I'm thinking is, like, if you have all of the data from all of the ads on the internet, somebody knows what people like and what people click. So
Yeah.
wouldn't you be able to tell AI, hey, make me an ad that will get 57% interaction or whatever? And it should be able to say, okay, well, these are the ads that get 57% response rate, and go from there. But I haven't found that yet.
It's got to be with Google. So I know Google has its own AI system. I don't know the use of it. I just know that it gets thrown around a lot. Google has its own AI system. Is Google part of ChatGPT? Man, I don't know. I
I don't
think
know.
ChatGPT is separate.
Yeah,
Obviously,
it's got its own
obviously I'm
soul.
not. Yeah, obviously I'm not a subject matter expert on this. It might have its own soul, but Google it has all that data, because that's
Yeah.
where you get the data for search engine optimization. So if their AI interfaces with that, and I don't know why it wouldn't, because they're selling this, that's
Yeah.
their goal, is
Yeah.
to make money.
Yeah.
That's got to be right around the corner, or maybe even something that's like got betas out there.
I mean, come to think of it, that's got to exist. I just don't know that it exists, that it's successful for you and I, because that's what isn't that basically what like Instagram and Facebook do? Is they
Yeah.
say, hey, this is what Clayton likes, so
Show
this is
him
what I'm
like
going to
this,
show him.
because I need more of his time.
Yeah.
He
And so
need Yeah.
how do I do that? How do I do that and say, what do home buyers like,
Oh,
or sellers or whatever, and create those ads?
well, this is stuff that's already out there. This is kind of what I was doing as when I was just leaving real estate, and I was looking at this marketing program. I remember I talked to you about it back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And it was about doing this for people, online marketing for people. And so one of the things they do is they have, man, I can't forget it. I can't remember the name of it, but you can ask Google what are the most searched for words in real estate in this area, and it'll tell you. And there's another website that's like Google, but it'll tell you the percentage of clicks based on the words on these ads. Like this when this ad is seen and someone searches for homes for sale in Wichita and this ad is seen, it gets clicked 57% of the time.
Really?
Yes, it
Okay.
will do that. And it'll give you those words, and the more so what you do then is you pay to have your ad come up every time someone searches for those words.
Oh,
Anytime someone searches for, because obviously you're going to come up whenever someone searches for at-home realty or at-home ICT, your thing's going to come up. But if
steadfast
someone
ICT.
Steadfast ICT, sorry, at home is my brother-in-law,
Yeah, yeah.
also in Wichita.
Yeah, no, I just met a guy from there. I went to a BNI the other day. Met a guy from At Home. Good dude. Seemed like a good dude. But anyway.
Oh, but if you want the words like 2-bedroom home for sale in Wichita, if you want your ad to pop up when someone searches for that, or 3-bedroom detached, whatever the words are,
Yeah.
but it isn't steadfast ICT, you can pay for that, and Google will do that.
Okay.
You can pay specifically Google.
Now I know when I was using Boomtown, they had their whole premise was they created ads, and part of the ad spend is for a certain amount of seconds. I think it was even fractions of seconds. Your link would appear in the top 3 results. But I don't know if that's what you're talking about, because that's just like a paid. You just pay to hold that position for half a second, whatever.
That's part of it.
Okay. Well, one of the things I do is when I Google something, like I ignore the top 3 results, because in my mind I'm like, well, those are just ads. So I want the first result that's not an ad.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, that tends to be more, it just seems to be more trustworthy in my mind, or more legit, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'll intentionally skip the ads if I can tell that somebody paid to have that spot.
Yeah, what you need to do then is to have those words that people are searching for in the graphics on your homepage or in the text on your homepage. So, because I know it seems like that's always highlighted, like whenever I Google anything, a website will come up that's not whatigoogled.com, but what I Googled will be in the description somewhere, and it'll be highlighted. So
yeah. So what I need to do is I'll find the words people are searching for. And then in my bio, I'm going to be like, some may say that I'm the best realtor in Wichita, Kansas. Or some
people have said, clients have said, Justin is the best. Give him 5 stars.
Realtors in Wichita. Yeah. I'll just have that somewhere. Realtor in Wichita.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try it.
Perfect. We have multiple 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, whatever.
So here's a story that I got to tell you.
Okay.
I think just to lay it all out. So I went out the other day to trim the trees.
Okay.
Right. Just a little trim, nothing big. And about an hour later, I was in the tree. Like I was in had climbed the tree, and I'm holding my pulse.
For what purpose have you climbed the tree?
Okay, so it started with, hey, there's some dead branches up there.
Dead branches.
I'm gonna cut them out.
How?
How
are you gonna cut them out?
Oh, with a saw.
A chainsaw?
Yes. Well, I had within my arsenal, I had a chainsaw, I had a pole saw, I had a handsaw, and I had little clippers. But what you need to understand is I started with just the little clippers, because this was like a couple hour job before dinner kind of thing. It's now been 2 weeks, and I'm not done yet. But as I get in there and as I'm cutting, I'm like, man, this tree is a living thing, and it's in my care, custody. Like, I'm responsible for this thing. And I started feeling really bad. Like, man, I've neglected this thing. And I see my daughter, actually, when I told her this story, she had the same response. She's like, you're so freaking weird. But I'm like, this is a living thing. And it's like the branches are crossing, and it's got wounds all over the place, and it's got so many dead branches. And so I'm just going to town. I've got burn piles, like, they're ridiculous, so much, and I'm not done yet. Couple things though. As I was doing this, I was like, every time I come back, and there's 7 of these cedar trees, and they're big. I mean, they're real big, and they've been neglected for at least 10 years, because that's how long
About
we've
how
lived
tall
here.
are they?
Probably 40 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been around. Well, they're tall enough that they've been lopped off at the top to keep from growing into the power lines.
Yeah.
But every time I come back, there's more branches that I need to cut out.
Yeah.
So the first moral of the story is I was like, man, this is kind of like an example of myself. Like every time I kind of do business with myself and like try to cut out the dead, try to, you know, I guess pay attention to my spirit. There's more work to be done. And I'm like, man, am I ever going to be there? But the reason I tell you all that is to tell you that my back freaking hurts so bad.
Yeah.
My lower back, dude, it's, I was playing football with my son the other day and I took a couple steps. It literally knocked, like I fell to my knees. It hurt so bad. But yesterday I got it's called CBD Relief, and it's RELEAF, Relief. And it's like it's like a wonder drug. I mean, like right now I've got no pain in my back.
What does it look like? Like, is it like a deodorant roller?
No, it's a little canister, probably about the size of a hockey puck. And it's a cream.
Okay.
Yep. So I put it on my tennis elbow, no pain on my elbow. I put it on my back, no pain in my back. And probably kind of like whatever that AI program you were talking about through Microsoft.
Copilot or
Copilot. Yeah.
Copilot.
So like with Copilot, I've been ignoring it so long. And for so long, I've been like, CBD, come on, man. That's dumb. That's snake oil. It's not going to do anything. I'm prepared to say I was wrong.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens. I mean, it's like that for any technology. There's always gonna be, I mean, think about what was it? I heard recently that until the 1920s, New York City streets were covered in horse manure because although cars were becoming more affordable, they still weren't as cheap as a horse. And so it even like the horse carriages, mostly, like everyone was getting drawn around New York City in horses to the point where the streets were caked in horse manure. And what happened is the mayor or somebody outlaw or started a fine on, like, cops going up and writing tickets for people with their horses were crapping on the streets.
Yeah.
Which I would have liked that job. That's the only thing that got the horses out of there.
How pissed would you be if you're like riding your horse and it poops and you get a fine? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I can't keep him from pooping in the street. He's a horse.
You got to do like WPD and put diapers on them.
Do they have diapers?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's the size of a horse's rear end. But, you know, if you have kids, you know the mechanics of a diaper. And I was like, where is that going? Unless there's a bread bag on the other side of this, what's happening?
I should have got a diaper for my canines.
Yeah.
Because good night, dude. Holy cow. Did any of my dogs ever poop in a house when you were there?
No. I know so I like to ride with the canine handler if I could, like us be in the same car. And I was only able to do that a handful of times, but each time I'd done it happened to be the day after their dog had too much coffee, I guess. And so it smells like exactly how you think it smells. And I don't mention it at all. I know they're self-conscious about it, like, because it was two different people. I knew they were self-conscious about it. I was like, no, it's great. It smells fine in here.
Well, you get used to the smell in the car. But I'm telling you, dude, the odor, we would call them battle craps because, essentially what it is, you break your dog and whatever, he doesn't have to go to the bathroom anymore. He's done. You bring him in the house, he does his job, and he's so amped up. At least my dogs were so amped up that they would always take a huge steamy poop in the living room.
In the living room.
But it was from like the deep recesses of their bowels. Like it's the stuff they've been holding. It's the anxiety and the tension stuff they've been holding on to for so long.
Childhood trauma.
Exactly. There was one. It was around Lincoln and Oliver, and I had put my dog up into the attic and searched around, didn't find anything. Well, let me back it up. First, we do the main level of the house, takes a big crap in the middle of the floor. Then I send him up to the attic. He searches that, doesn't find anything. So then I'm trying to get him down, and getting a dog up a ladder is a lot easier than getting a dog down a ladder. So,
This
he's
is
up.
Patton?
No, this was Chapo, I think.
Okay.
And so, we have a ladder, we get him up the ladder. Well, now he's at the opening in the ceiling, and I'm trying to coax him down. Well, he doesn't want to come down. So he jumps onto me, and then I kind of break his fall, and he lands right in the crap, like paws in the poop. Well, then he's like, "Hey, this is great." Jumping up on me, and he's spreading poop all over the place.
Oh.
Officers that were walking up to the house could smell it from the next door neighbor's house. That's how terrible it was. But it was like this every single time. It didn't matter how long I broke him or how many times I broke him. If he's in your house, he's pooping on your carpet. It was almost like he did it on purpose.
I mean, I guess we don't have to answer this, but were any of these like sensitive areas afterwards where like the scene had to be preserved?
No.
Okay. Because I could see that happening in my mind, and like, yeah, like, well, there's a shit there now. that is part of the scene.
Hey, can we get CSI in here to process this? No, most of the time it generally involved I would pick it up, because I was never the guy. Back in Narcs, man, it used to drive me crazy when we would do warrants and people would like trash houses. Like that's not cool.
Yeah.
I hate that. But I would pick it up. But that, I guarantee you, when they got out of jail or when they came back home or whatever, I guarantee you somebody threw up. They walked into there like, good Lord, what happened in here?
I rented a house out when I was in the Navy. I had a townhome, and we ended up not using it at home, and I was living in a different home. So I had this townhome that I rented out to another sailor. Well, it was my first time doing anything real estate related. I had just bought my own first home a couple years ago, and I was 23 when I did that. So I must have been 25. I rent this out, and I got like a Walmart lease, and like said I was going to get it notarized, never got it notarized. Like I didn't know why would I have.
What's a Walmart lease?
It was like a lease. Sometimes in some states, I know they don't do this in every state. I don't think they do this in Kansas, but in Arkansas and in Virginia, I know you can go to a Walmart and they have like a legal documents section in the books, like near books and journals and stuff like that. There's a section of legal documents, and you can get a blank lease or a blank divorce
contract
decree. Yeah, contracts, all these different things. And so I got a lease from Walmart and filled in the information. She filled in the information. We both signed, and she was paying me rent every day or every month. Well, she ended up getting kicked out of the Navy for some reason. I don't remember, but she had to leave. I was like, fine, you're out of here. I'm keeping your deposit. That was one of the terms in the lease. I'm keeping your deposit. See ya. Well, when I get back, there is a giant stain on my white carpet, and it's right next to where the bed was. And this was a single gal, and I'm like, I can't do any investigation on this. There's just a stain there.
Yeah, some things are just best left unsaid.
Shampooed it as much as I could, and there's just a stain there. I'm sorry that we put the bed over that spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what else is going on? What's new with you?
Oh, nothing. I yeah, I don't know. I'm in this weird spot where actually everything is great, and I think this is just a human condition, but everything's actually fine. But sometimes I just get a little melancholy. I'm like, I don't know if I want to.
I've got some songs for you.
Okay. Well, I'll
If-
listen to some. Music is definitely one of the tools that I use to get out of funks like this.
Oh no, never mind. You want to get out of it. I thought you wanted to wallow in it.
No,
Because that's what my music is best for, is for wallowing in your melancholy.
I don't like this.
I
like to. I like to get
misunderstood.
out of here.
Okay, never mind then.
No, but everything is going great. Like you said, this is just a weird condition. I think just a human condition that we find ourselves in. Like, yeah, my career's, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of things shaking and happening professionally. Great with the kids. Went on a hike yesterday.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, that was really cool. I almost ate a poisonous mushroom, I think.
Well, I was gonna say you should have at least taken a nibble just to see what it does.
I had it right next to my mouth, and my wife was like, "That's stupid. You don't know what it is." I'm like, I sure do know what it is.
It's a mushroom, dummy.
But it smelled like garlic chicken, and they
Yeah.
say that that's one of the things of chicken in the woods. It smells like chicken, and this had like a chicken garlic smell to it, and it was like this white flesh that, and it grew on. It was on the side of a tree, which is where chicken of the woods grows from, and you just tear it off and smell it. It smells like chicken, and this smelled like garlic chicken, and this one had gills. And when I went home and looked it up, the ones that have gills are jack-o'-lanterns, which could be fatal. Like,
Oh, wow.
They're definitely going to make you sick. Could
Oh,
be
yeah.
fatal. Yeah. But they're orange. This one was white. The jack-o'-lanterns are orange, like a creamy orange. This one was white, but it had gills, and chicken of the woods doesn't have gills. This one for sure had gills on the bottom. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, but when you said chicken of the woods, I assumed that you were talking about like morels.
Oh, no.
Just because that's all. I mean, everybody talks about morels, and I assumed that was just a term. So
I've never found any. Have you?
I've never looked.
Oh.
But people, like, I've got a lot of friends that seem to take it pretty serious. Like they go hunting these things.
There is a whole universe of mycology that I'm just starting to crack the veil on. I know nothing. I'm just starting to look into this world of amateur mycology. That's huge.
Did you listen to that Rogan episode with that guy recently? I think it was
Paul
last
Stamets?
week.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
don't
had
remember his name.
recently listened to his older ones. Paul Stamets. He's lots of things cool, but he was a friend of Terrence McKenna. Did you know of Terrence McKenna?
That name sounds familiar.
He is a guy who's passed away. I think he passed away in the 90s. He led the philosophy behind psychedelic mushroom use, specifically in the US.
Okay.
Like he smuggled in the spores from South America of golden teacher, which isn't native to North America, but now it's the main one. He's the one who smuggled in those spores back in the 70s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From South America. But he's a real philosophical guy, and he talks about mushrooms. Paul Stamets was a friend of his. Paul Stamets is a doctor and like holds these patents to this fungal technology that can does everything a antivirus should do or a vaccine should do, except there's no there's no DNA modification, or there's no actual virus in this at all. It's all mycelium from these specific mushrooms that tells your body to build up its
Hmm.
defense in this way that just defeats all these viruses.
So here's a question that really it can't be answered. But I guess just your opinion. Do you think that there's a cure for every illness somewhere in nature?
I think there's probably something to help every illness somewhere in nature, but I don't know if every illness is supposed to be healed. I don't know if every illness is supposed to like I think you're supposed to get the chicken pox when you're a kid. I think maybe you're supposed to get the flu every once in a while.
Yeah, I can buy that.
That is part of, and there's no DR period in front of my name, so don't take your health as advice from me. But there is something called germ theory and a couple other things, and that I don't even know enough to really talk about it. But that's part of germ theory, is your body's supposed to take in a certain amount of, it's supposed to get sick in order to build the defense against it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I'm talking about is even like depression and melancholy or anxiety. I think you're supposed to feel those things sometimes. Even if it's just to teach yourself, I don't want to feel that anymore, and I need to avoid what got me to that. That's enough. But maybe, man, like I know I process everyday decisions differently. Like decisions that are totally unrelated to what I might be depressed or anxious about. But like, taking out the trash, or, sending out my morning emails. I do all those things a lot differently if I'm anxious, or if I'm depressed, or if I'm happy, or if I'm energized, or, if I got something going up, if I have something I'm working on, or if I don't, if I'm kind of just lost piddling. I handle those normal everyday situations differently depending on what mood I'm in. And I'm not saying everything's bad. Like, sometimes there's a way I handle things when I'm anxious that might be beneficial to that situation. Potentially.
Yeah. I mean, man, I think you're right, but it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
As someone who just recently, within the past 6 months, probably acknowledged that I think probably what I deal with is depression.
Yeah.
Like I've ignored it or called it different things, for a long time, but ultimately that's what it is. But I think there's probably some wisdom in that, but it doesn't make it any more comfortable being there.
Right. And I don't know how true, I don't even know if this is true, but it makes sense. I've heard Ernest Hemingway has a quote like this, and there's a bunch of other writers and poets that have a quote along the lines of, I've never known anyone who was truly brilliant that was also happy. Like they're saying depression comes along with intellect. And I don't know if that's true.
That's probably true. I'm just kidding, because I was saying that I've got depression, and the insinuation is that I'm brilliant.
No. I'll take that. That's fine. But I just can't accept a world because, it's the same. It goes along our same arguments that I've had about evangelicalism and the theology of Western Christianity, Protestant Christianity versus what the Bible is, and yada yada. But there's a tool. It's a tool, and it's very comforting. And I'm not saying this is all it is. I'm not trying to limit it, but it's very comforting to know that, like, this isn't a Bible, but it looks like one. That everything I need in life is gonna be in this book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm told since I'm born. Everything you ever need, the answer to all life's problems, son, is right here. The answer to all this. And so the problem is like, what happens when I'm 13, 14, 15 and my body's hormones are out of control and they're because of something I can't control, like I said, literally out of control, where it's taken over my dreams and I can't do my math homework to the and the only there's nothing about that really in the book, but
Yeah.
if you want to bend something to say that there is, it's just going to say you're a sinner, or
Yeah.
you're a bad person, you're a bad kid. So obviously it doesn't answer all of life's problems. For a lot of it does. What I said recently is I thought of it like a multi-tool. Like it's very comforting to know. And there's some badass multi-tools like Gerber's and a couple other ones. Benchmade makes some good ones. But it's comforting to know that if I need a seatbelt cutter, I got a seatbelt cutter. If I need a knife to whittle something, I got that. If I need tweezers or pliers, I got that. And even if you're in a club where everyone is required, I'm talking like a very real example of this are Sikhs, where the men have to have a blade on them. So if you're in a club where everyone has to have this multi-tool, and it's that multi-tool can help you in real life, then brother, carry that multi-tool. And I don't even think the multi-tool is bad in that situation, but it's comforting to know that there are specialty tools outside of that. Like, it's got a Phillips screwdriver on it. It's not the best Phillips screwdriver. It's that Phillips screwdriver can't fix your glasses. You know what I mean? You wouldn't
Right.
be able to do a lot with it. You could get a better Phillips screwdriver. And there's some tools that aren't in that multi-tool, and you can get those, and it's okay to have it. And just because you have other tools, so I'm talking about in this philosophical or theological ideas, doesn't mean you can't also have your multi-tool. And it doesn't mean you can't be in the multi-tool club. Like I'm still in the multi-tool club.
Yeah. I think the problem though is that it's so comfortable knowing that everything is contained within here that I think a lot of people put all of their eggs in that basket so they don't have to consider other tools. Like it's just very easy for me to say, well, if it's not here, then it doesn't matter. Like everything is, but the problem there is that you end up using this multi-tool for something it wasn't designed to do. It's not a hammer. There's no hammer on that multi-tool.
Right.
But because I've already established, well, this is the only tool I'll ever need, I've got to figure out a way to make it work.
Yep.
And so a lot of times, at least in what I grew up in, I think that we worship the Bible as much as we worship God. The Bible being inerrant, infallible, all that. In a lot of cases, I think it takes the place of God.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird, it's really, even though we would never say this back then, or we're completely blind to it, and we said the opposite. What we're doing is picking and choosing things from the Bible to make it fit our theology.
Yep. And everybody does. You've got to.
You have to do that. You have to do that because it's literally impossible, almost like any other, like even an instruction manual. You can't perform a disassembly while you're also performing an assembly. I mean, like if I have this instruction manual that's telling me to do how to do all these different things, I can't do it all at once. So I'm gonna have to just focus on this part. And there's gonna be some parts that maybe aren't applicable to what I'm doing.
There's going to be some parts written in Chinese.
Right.
That you got no use for that. It's not written for you.
It's actually written to Chinese 2,000 years ago or 2,500 years ago. And it was an oral story before that in a different language.
Yeah. And on top of that, it probably was never meant to tell you exactly how to assemble this thing. It was saying it's going to look like this.
Right.
It's going to be similar to this. It'll be whatever. But I want to go back real quick to the mushrooms that you found. So
Yeah.
what would have happened if you'd have taken just a bite?
I
Like,
don't know. I'm not convinced they're jack-o'-lanterns. If they were jack-o'-lanterns, from what I would have read, I would have started not immediately, but I would have had abdominal cramps, pretty severe abdominal cramps, and uh, vomiting and diarrhea afterwards. That would last from 1 to 4 days.
just from a bite?
Well, I didn't see anything on dosage. It just said if consumed, these are common reactions.
Yeah.
But I would have gone. I would have gone to a hospital just because I would have been dehydrated. I would have wanted them to go ahead and give me that charcoal. Bring it
Yeah.
out of there.
It's not my thought, but I like the meme that talks about how somebody at some point figured out that this mushroom will send you to outer space. This one will kill you. This one tastes like chicken. This
Yeah.
one, whatever. Like,
And some of them look exactly like yesterday, the chicken of the woods. The jack-o'-lantern, besides having gills, looks exactly like chicken of the woods. Even smells like it. So they say jack-o'-lantern smells like garlic and onions. And chicken of the woods, they say, smells like chicken, like roasted chicken. So I think that's what I was smelling, was the garlic in there, but maybe I was making myself smell the chicken. Like I wanted it to smell like chicken so bad.
yeah.
But
Well, I guess it's a good thing your wife was there with you.
yeah, she was like, probably not. And I'm like, I was just enough, which is where I like to dangle. I like to hang out on that line sometimes of like, maybe you shouldn't be doing this. If your supervisor was here, what would he say?
When you have that thought,
If you think I wouldn't want you to do this, you shouldn't do this. Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah. So something I was thinking of to kind of navigate this, just a little melancholy thing that I'm feeling, is I sent you a picture last night of a meme I found that I'd honestly never heard of. It was this I've looked into it. Ikigai. Did you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I googled the whatever
The meaning of it?
yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I like it, and I like that it was, I don't know, maybe I was just looking too much into it, but it seemed like it pertained to the little bit of melancholy I was feeling. But
I mean, I think it's a great, and just for anybody that's not looking at it, it's a rope with the strands of it are what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you get paid for. I think that's a great way to consider where you want to spend your energy.
yes.
How does that help with melancholy?
Oh, because it lets you know that I don't have to be like, all of those strands come together to make a rope. And it reminds me of something I heard about Marcus Aurelius earlier yesterday too. But you don't have to have all of those twines. It seems like in my mind, like it's obviously about a split between that, because what ikigai translates to is a life's purpose. And like, these are things you're going to do that contribute to your life's purpose, what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, what you can benefit, what you can get paid for, and what you're good at. All four of those things it'd be awesome if they're the same thing, but it seems like that's pretty extraordinary for all four of those things to be the same thing. I don't know how it's possible, but I guess theoretically it's possible. So you're gonna need time in all four of those in order for those to, like a rope, to be mature enough to twist together and to support each other. And we've seen this, man, think about the cops we know, and I know plenty of veterans too, that did not have any type of work home life balance, and including me. I was the worst one at that, and for a period. But a work home life balance, or something that you're engaged with outside of work that's also mentally stimulating. Physical exercise. I mean, how many cops do we know that just completely avoid physical exercise? But yeah, you have. So, in perspective of my melancholy, is I have to realize that it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies. If it was, you'd never appreciate the rainbows and butterflies. It would just be normal. But also, I have to spend time on things like I want to be a successful business owner, and I also want to be a successful podcaster, and I want to have fulfillment in nature, and I want to grow a garden, and I want to have fulfillment with my family and my personal, and I also want a personal spiritual development. And it's impossible for me to nourish all of these things at once. And even if I'm failing, or if I'm not making as much progress as I want in one of these areas, that certainly does not mean I'm a failure at this whole picture. Those are all things that I want to do, and things that are important to me, and things that make me me. So just because I'm not progressing enough in archery does not mean I'm a bad dad. Or just because my business is not where I imagined it would be at this time does not mean, it doesn't mean a whole lot, because it's so market dependent. But it certainly doesn't make me a failure at other things. It doesn't mean just that perspective, I think, is very useful.
Yeah.
That's what the Ikigai reminded me of. Like, oh, what I love is not necessarily the same thing as what I'm good at.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think that I think that maybe the special stuff happens when you figure out how to combine them.
Yes.
And so what I mean by that, like, I've had some success in real estate, but I'm not a big shot by any means. But I think the reason that I've had success in real estate is because a couple things I'm good at are empathizing with people and bringing calm, bringing some comfort. And because of that, doing it in business, that I think is what's made my business successful. Yeah. So doing what I'm good at, getting paid for what I'm good at. See what the other options were. What the world needs, what you love, like that can come together. But maybe what that means is that, like, I just have to focus on the aspect of the industry that I really love doing.
Yeah. Well, and like there was this different version, this image that I saw, but it was explaining the Ikigai, like what you get paid for. There's more than one way to get paid for something. Like so the two examples that it showed were, one was your profession and the other one was a vocation. And those aren't necessarily the same thing. So a vocation comes from the same, it has the same root word as vocal, like to be called to. What your vocation is closely to a calling.
Okay.
And so, like when I was in the Navy, I thought being a Riverine was my calling. I was pretty good at it, and I thought I was going to do it forever until they very abruptly ended the whole program. I thought I was going to do it forever. I thought that was my calling. When I got out, one of the things there's a lot of veterans, and I know this happens in law enforcement also. One of the things that was so frustrating is I was aimless. I felt like I didn't have anywhere to, like, now what? Like, I thought Riverine was my whole calling. And so I I fell into other professions, getting a job at the Coke warehouse while I was going to college. Like, that obviously wasn't my calling. It's a great opportunity, but it was a profession. And you can have both of those things are what makes me money. So it's not bad to say that I'm good at both of those things, and they're also different. So you can have but yeah, like I said, both of those things are what I get paid for. You can have multiple things that you do that even overlap. Like what I love doing, I love learning things and I love talking about what I've learned. And so, like a podcast, like what me and you are doing, we learn things and we talk about things. Hey, I'm going through this. What do you think about this? And we're bouncing ideas off each other. That is a way to, I mean, like there's a revenue source in there, but it's also doing what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's okay to not it's actually, I think, essential to be balanced into these different areas and to
Yeah.
not feel guilt. To not feel guilt when one of them isn't one of it, like you were talking about before with running a race. Like, hey, maybe this guy's a marathon runner, or maybe this guy's only running 2 miles, or you know.
Yeah, but your calling really, man, it seems to me that the calling kind of over, how would you say it? Your job is just your job. Like my job, whatever, like even at the sheriff's office. So I was fulfilling my calling, but my calling was not necessarily to be a sheriff's deputy. My calling is to take care of people, protect
Right.
people, serve people, love people. And that's just how I was fulfilling it. So I'm not doing that anymore. So now I'm fulfilling my calling through real estate. And if I decide to quit doing real estate and I decide to become a trash truck driver, my calling remains the same.
Yeah.
To take care of people, protect people, serve, all that kind of stuff. I just get paid from a different, from a different side of it. So maybe I wonder if maybe the goal is to find what you love and what you're called to do wherever you are, whether that's being a student or being a riverine or a realtor or a cop or a oil rigger, whatever. Like, to find what you love in that.
Yeah.
And do it.
Well, I think, I don't know. I hear Alan Watts talk in my head. Like, eventually the goal is to be content, like you said, wherever you are, and to find purpose and fulfillment in wherever you are. But that's a lot easier said, and it's not easily thought of, but it's easier thought of than it is to fulfill.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I was watching before bed last night. I was watching just a 15-minute video on what was the title of it? It was basically on like oneness, and like we had talked so many times before about like getting rid of all but the essential self. And it was talking about how no experience in the world, absolutely nothing, can impact your essential self.
Yeah.
Anything that's hurt, any pain, now I don't know if I believe this. It seems good. It seems right. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But what he's saying is that like all of those injuries, all of those offenses, all of those those are just, that's the outer you. That's the outer shell being offended or being hurt, being injured.
Yeah.
The inner you is impenetrable.
Hmm.
So it was interesting to think of
It's
going
definitely
to sleep.
Immortal. Yeah. See, that's the thing is that certainly sounds Buddhist, or someone riffing on some Buddhist ideas. Was it Buddhist?
No, I think it was. I think he was a white guy, but I think he was coming from a Hindu perspective.
Okay, so Buddhism came from Hinduism. I think they're pretty close on this. Yeah, because I think he's describing the Atman.
Yeah, you remind me what that is. I know you've talked about it.
So the Atman, I mean, that's exactly what he's describing. It's a word that in English gets translated to soul, but it's so much more than that. It is the life that connects us all, that we're all a part of. And it's the soul that's inside you seeing the soul that's inside me, like, hey, that's you over there, I'm over here. And it's actually,
what's your name?
Yeah, and imagine like it being in a meme, like there's these two puppets talking to each other, but underneath the arm is connected the same. It's the same.
Oh, okay.
It's the same arm going in both sides. That's the Atman.
Okay. So is it like the force or the energy or the consciousness?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Buddhism or even Hinduism, like I said, it really has that down where there's levels to the onion, and when you get down to it, the real you, Buddhism, I think, would closer call this the observer, and in Hinduism, it would be the Atman, but they're talking about the same thing. And I think it would be closer to soul in English, but like I said, you can see how that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing, because like
Yeah.
there's a difference between soul and spirit. Maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah.
uh, it is the you that was there before you first got before your mama first yelled at you, or before you first got sick. It's the you that was there before that. And so everything else that's happened since this thing emerged is not this thing, but it's like the armor and the shirt. It's like my hand. I am not my hand.
Yeah.
It's, and it's this body. I'm not this body, even though that feels weird to say, and it's definitely unscientific. Me and you both are in jive with that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not this
Yeah.
body.
If you lose your leg, you're still you.
Yes. And so your ego then would be like a level below your body. So like I'm a I'm a thinking 40-year-old white Christian male in the US, and like I'm all these labels. But even behind that, I think there's levels. Ram Dass called these channels. But so it's your body, your ego, and then I think there's a little bit of a hippy dippy side to everyone. But the real extravagant, I don't know, flamboyant way of talking about this would be like your astrology signs. Like, I'm also a
Oh,
Libra.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, I am a thinking man, but I'm also a Libra, or I'm also a Taurus. I get this and that. And there's like I said, that's kind of a cartoonish way of talking about it, but there's some validity to that. I don't know. I just don't know enough about it. Because we didn't talk about that
Yeah.
in evangelicalism. That's the only reason it's easy to make fun of it, is because we don't know anything about it.
For sure.
But and so below that there's a soul, and the soul is closest to the Atman. It sounds like what that show was talking about, but that's where Buddhism and Hinduism like to hang out.
You said something last week, and you just mentioned it again about the ego. And I think you said something about how the ego is actually a good thing, or we were talking about egos bumping into each other,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what we were talking about. But did you say that the ego is good?
Yes. Well, it definitely serves a purpose, and sometimes it's good. What we were talking about was my ego that led me to possibly negatively impact some professional relationships, and you were like, it was actually their ego that caused that relationship to impacted the way. And I guess those are both true. But so so just defining what the ego is I think is everything above or above that observer, or that that real self, is the ego. So first is a name. I'm Justin Mother Crafton, or and then it's all these societal identifiers. I'm a man. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a leader in my church. I'm a man of faith. I'm also a man of intellect. And so you start adding on all these
Yeah.
things. That is absolutely useful. That's what's feeding your kids. That's what got your electric going. That's what keeps you alive. And part of the ego is the need to protect itself, to preserve itself, which the extreme version of that is where you would prioritize yourself over someone else, and you would take resources. Imagine someone in the tribe, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go take their coconuts because I don't think I have enough coconuts. That's all part of the ego. That's the negative version of self-preservation. Like, the extreme version of self-preservation is to put down others. So, it definitely gets out of hand, but you need it. And I don't know if it's exactly the same as your shadow self, but I feel like you're using the same language whenever I've heard it recently, probably mostly through social media, but maybe in some of my Audible books, about how give yourself some grace. Like, the ego actually has done a lot to keep you here. And it makes sense when you follow that train of thought.
Well, I think that I thought about this a long time ago, that I think our mind's number one job, and maybe you could say the ego, these things maybe they interchange, but I think our mind's number one job is self-preservation.
Sure.
And so what that looks like a lot of times is fear and anger, anxiety, all of these things, because you can do a lot of things that aren't going to bother me, but if you do something that makes me feel that I'm not going to be, that I'm in harm, or my people are in harm, my family is in harm, then that's where I draw the line. And
my image, what I think of myself is being harmed.
For sure. And so that we saw a lot of that in law enforcement, where you have somebody who's so wrapped up in how they portray themselves, or how people think of them, that in reality, like, they've got a legit fear that this is gonna hurt my coconuts. Like, I may lose my job, I may lose respect, I may lose position in the pecking order.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all at risk by you saying that thing, or you doing that thing, or even looking at me a certain way.
Yeah.
It plucks the string that causes fear. And I think it all comes back to self-preservation.
Yeah. And like I said, certainly without naming any names, but there were instructors, or just people who were instructors,
highly influential people,
had been there for a long time, that you can tell they were just so threatened by anything that could possibly question or challenge their position of being the subject matter expert, or being in charge of every situation. They had to be the smartest person in the room, and they had to be the toughest and John Wickest person in the room, that if there was anything that remotely could possibly challenge that position, like a smart ass like yours truly, it was immediately squashed. Like, actually, just get out of my room. Before you open your mouth, just leave.
What's so funny about that, and I don't know why people don't see through that, is how weak that position is.
How weak that is! Just that is someone hanging on.
How do people not see through that? It's the same. It's the same as somebody who yells and screams all the time, loses their temper. Like, that's so weak.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time, and it's seen as some kind of a strength, or some kind of authority.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's literally,
some people revere those people there.
Well, it probably has to do more with fear, but if I'm yelling at my kids, and I'm not suggesting that, that I'm a perfect parent, or that anybody is, but the fact that I'm yelling at my kids is an indication that I'm out of control.
You have lost control.
I don't have authority. No. Because if I had authority, I would tell you to do something, or tell you not to do something, and you would respond. So by yelling and screaming and all this kind of stuff.
So then what do you do if they don't respond?
Well, it depends on if you have authority.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you have authority, then here's the consequences. Yeah. Or maybe you don't even respond. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, fortunately, I've got pretty good kids. But it's kind of this. So here's an example. I think this is a good example. last night at youth group. There are four, last night there was three, but there's generally 4 or 5 kids that don't like to go into the auditorium. They would rather stay out in the lobby, hang out, play on the phone, talk, whatever, eat snacks. And there's there's one view that's, hey, you guys need to get in there right now. Like, why are you here? You need to go in there. And that creates friction, that creates conflict. But my perspective is, honestly, I don't care. Like, stay out here, go in there, whatever. Like, it is what it is. As long as you're not being distracting to other people, as long as it's not causing a big problem, like, just whatever is fine. So last night,
they're not on the street smoking crack, or robbing in cars.
They're safe.
They're in a good place.
So last night, one of the leaders had talked to them, like, hey, you guys need to go in. And they basically like blew him off. They're like, yeah, no thanks. So then he came to me, he was like, hey, I'm gonna let you handle it. You deal with them. And the way I dealt with them is I was like, hey guys, 6:02 or 6:32, how about in 8 minutes once you guys make your way into the auditorium? And I'm not saying this is the way it should have been handled or anything. All I'm saying is, like, it wasn't an affront to my authority to not make them go in right now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't draw that line. I didn't create this conflict, where a lot of times I think people are like, hey, I told you to go in the auditorium. Dang. You're confronting my authority. And they see that as an attack.
Man, I've been there. That's something I struggle with, and I catch it, and I'm conscious of it. Like, I'm mindful of it, but I struggle with that with my kids, and it's so silly when I, get some space and think about it, because my 6-year-old boy is designated, I just looked at the paperwork the other day, extreme ADHD. We just had him extreme.
Okay.
And he was just on one. We took him to get evaluated, and it was like 3 weeks in a row, 3 different appointments with the same doctor. And for whatever reason, every day we took him in there, he was on one. If you asked him what he was on, it was one. He was.
And you'd look at the doctor and be like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
do you see this?
The first time we brought him in there, he was like, so what are the symptoms? And Cash is literally next to me, we're in like a bench seat. He's standing on the bench seat, turned around, jumping up and down, shaking his butt at the doctor. I'm like, Exhibit A.
Does this count?
Yeah. So I deal with a wild man who, and by the way, I love that he's like that. That makes me so happy that is in the world. And even that it came from me.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, he makes the sunshine. I love that he's like that, but it's a lot. He's a whole lot. Aliana she's just coming out of like the princess thing, and she's a preteen. She's not a preteen, but she hangs out with pre-teenagers.
What is she, like 10?
She's about to be 8.
Oh, wow.
She's about to be 8, but she's hanging out with 10 and 11-year-olds at the bus stop every day. And so she hears them talking, and the way they do this, and they all wear eyeliner, and they're all, wearing jewelry. So she's trying to do this. She's trying to get into that spot. And sometimes she's just defiant. She's defiant with that. Caleb he's great right now. He's got his learner's permit. We're driving. He's rocking and rolling. But these little 2 kids, they challenge my authority. It's so silly to even say that. But I'm like, hey, pick up your backpack. Pick up your backpack. Do you guys hear me? Pick up your backpack. Hey, pick up the stinking backpack.
Isn't that so important, though? Like, isn't it important for even us to challenge authority and to push and to see how far this envelope can go?
Yeah.
Like, I think you were on the shift when I gave the illustration of our hogs testing the fence. Maybe not.
I don't know.
It was one of the many nights where I was supervising by myself, which I won't get into. But I was telling the shift that the people that push the envelope, they're going to get in trouble. It is what it is. But understand that getting in trouble isn't the worst thing, because
Yeah.
we need people like that. We need people to see how far they can go in comedy, in art, in
Yeah.
music, in everything. We need to know where the line is. And it's unfortunate. Like the example I gave is we had hogs at the time, and we had an electric fence, and occasionally they would bump it with their nose and they would know it's on, so they'd stay away. But sometimes they would bump it with their nose and it was off. And then you got problems, because they're like, all of the stuff we want is out there. And so they would go through it and it would be a big thing. But one of the hogs was willing to take the zap on the nose while the others benefited from it. And the point is that some of you guys in here in this room are going to push the envelope.
Yeah.
And you're going to get zapped. And I may be the one to zap you, but understand that we need that. And that's, a lot of times those people they're difficult to manage. They can be scary to be around. They could be.
Well, you're describing the employee that I was.
I'm describing Clayton Blackwood.
Yeah.
But it's so important. And I just think that, I think that we need to appreciate that more. Maybe it's difficult with your kids. I get that.
Yes.
With our kids, it's so difficult, but man, there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Which is, like I say, I think it's good that's in the world. I think that is so. Recently, someone from my childhood that I was like, she was a friend of mine when I was at that church home, when I was at the group home. Those are the people that I'm nervous about hearing our podcast. Some of the people that knew me from back then. But she commented and said, "Hey, I'm glad you talk about I let my kids be exposed to people from different religions. Like, we have Muslim friends and we have Hindu friends, and I think it's good that my kids are around these different ideas. Just like I want my kids to be exposed to these different ideas, I want my kids to question. I want my kids to I don't want you to take it I'm saying this, I'm understanding the contradictions in my head, but I don't want you to take it what I say at face value. I want you to know, like like my authority, either I got it or I don't. I want you to know that what I'm saying is true. If not, test me and so I can prove that it's true. And if not, it's not on you to change, it's on me to change.
Yeah.
At that point. But picking up your backpack is not one of these things. I promise I'm right.
Don't test me on that one.
Yeah. I promise that is not where your backpack goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that so many great things have come from somebody being willing to push the envelope.
Sure.
Somebody being willing to take the fall.
Well, that's where all innovation happens, is questioning the status quo of like, yes, this works. Can we make it better? Or is this the most efficient way of doing it?
Yeah.
Do I have to 22 my pursuit just because he turns his lights off? There's nothing that says I have to, at least back then. Well, you got a ghost in your room, homie.
Dude, that was the ghost of someone that doesn't like what you just said.
Russ, I'm sorry.
Either that or
I 22'd it.
Either that or I'm about to have an electrical fire. One of the two.
No, that was Russ. He was like, chase him till the wheels fall off.
Yeah. Are you talking about
your dad?
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about I won't say his name, but there was a guy that he kind of floated around the smaller departments, generally up north. It was just wild, man.
I imitated him on the radio sometimes. He never caught it.
There was a pursuit on K96 where it was going the wrong way, wherever. And I was somewhere down south, and I was like, oh dear Lord, please don't let this end poorly. And it all worked out, but
me and Vince were going to a home alarm, like a home alarm somewhere up there in the northeast part, and we were driving faster than we should have, but it was like at 3 o'clock in the morning on the highway. Do you remember this?
I might have talked to you about that
I think you did.
because I think I remember you justifying it by like, this is a home that's been broken into. This is a man's castle is being violated. And I was like, dude, how many audibles have you gone to that were valid
Yeah.
and where the suspect was still unseen?
So
Probably going to be about 0.
yeah. So we are on our way there, and all of a sudden we hear this person. I can't even say any part of identifier about him. He's like, this person, I'm following.
I'm following the suspect.
They're going about 120 miles an hour. I'm trying to catch up to them. Like, he's talking about us.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't think I knew that part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't broadcast it a lot. I don't think we did tell you about that. But I got on the radio. I'm like, hey, does he have his rear decks on? And I kicked my rear decks on, and he was like, oh, 10-4.
You know, there was a time that me and John we were chasing somebody in an unmarked car, and a PD officer was chasing us as we were chasing them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We had lights on. We had same thing. We had our deck lights on. I have no idea why whatever. We're actively pursuing the suspect, and he's actively pursuing us on South Side.
Yeah. I know a guy who got he was wearing plain clothes. He was conducting plainclothes operations, and he chewed this WPD guy's butt one time, and I thought kind of unnecessarily, and he bragged about it. He was going to catch up. He wasn't even on the target vehicle. Something was happening with the target vehicle, like some action was happening with the target vehicle, and he was driving in an unmarked car, and a beard and tattoos, was driving like a butthole to catch up to where the action was happening, and got pulled over on the way there, and then jumped out of his car, showed his badge, and like was bragging, at least if you believe the story the way he told it, was telling him, I'm undercover, you dumb F word. I gotta go to somewhere. And the guy was like trying to ride him, and he got in his car and drove away.
Oh, wow.
Thinking, man, what a jerk.
Yeah. That's a douchebag move.
Yeah.
I think I only got pulled over once when I was undercover. And what's funny is none of our tags were assigned.
Uh-huh.
You know, a lot of them were recycled from property and evidence or or wherever.
Uh-huh.
But I would see, like, I would call on the radio, hey, I'm about to get pulled over. I would see the officers running my tag and pull off. Like, they want nothing to do with it.
Oh, really?
I can't even count the number of times they're behind me. I know they're running my tag. They're kind of following. And then I assume because they all came back not on file. It's not like they came back, you know, to law enforcement or anything like that. It would either come back to a different vehicle or just not on file. And they would just be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Don't want to deal with this. The one time I actually got stopped was by a deputy. It's like 2:00 in the morning, headed home. And he was real cool. He was super nervous because he recognized me, and he was like, and I'm by myself. He's like, I'm not sure what to do. I'm like, I mean, there's nobody else here to see what, like, you're fine. It's all good.
Cool.
But yeah.
Yeah. I never did any plainclothes operations. That was something that was kind of like the dog, where I thought it'd be cool, and I can definitely see how it'd benefit, but I didn't need to do it to get my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal was just to get large amounts of dope, preferably narcotics.
Yeah. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. It was weird though, because for most of my, really probably all of my cop life, I've always been good at seeing somebody and kind of like making an assessment, making pretty good assessments. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. And so like I see people and I'm like, okay, that person's a criminal, that person's a meth head, that person's a burglar, whatever. Um, and so all of a sudden I'm like, how would a criminal dress?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to look like. And so I would like
Mm.
wear the stuff and look like a dirtbag. And that was kind of hard for me. Like going into Quick Trip, and it used to be that I'd stand at the soda machine and I'd be getting my drink and kind of scanning everything. And I was the authority in that building.
Yes.
I was the top authority in that building.
Well, that's why you're getting a free drink.
Exactly. So now I'm at Quick Trip and I'm getting a drink, and I've got my cutoff dickies and my checkered Vans and my DC shirt with my hat, and I've got this long nasty beard, kind of a whatever. I don't even know what you call what I was doing with my hair. And I'm like, man, these people don't know. They just think I'm a regular old dirtbag. And so then that was a weird feeling of not putting the face that you know you are.
Yeah.
Not that, maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like you're wearing a different mask, and you know this mask isn't really me.
Yeah.
Like we wear all kinds of masks that aren't really us, but we think they're us.
Yeah.
I think I'm this. I think I'm that. I want you to think this. But now I'm wearing this mask that I'm like, I don't look. I don't know. It was weird. But it was fun. It was fun though.
And it's weird to think about the you that's underneath there like a molting crab. Have you ever seen a crab molt?
Mm-mm.
It's the strangest thing you'll ever see. You got to YouTube it. A crab. So a crab will grow its external skeleton, but eventually its insides will grow, and it feel like it too tight for this external skeleton that it made from its body. And so I don't know the period, the frequency with how much they do it, but I know it's like a couple times a year, I think, for these crabs on the Atlantic side. It takes like 15 minutes to an hour, but they have to like pull their arms out of the shell of their arms to where it's just this gelatinous slab. And this is the most vulnerable they'll ever be because they have no shell, and it's going to take them some days to grow back a shell. And they'll pull their eyes out of the eye hole and their mouth out of that big gnarly thing that's like this on crabs. They'll pull their actual mouth out of that, and so it's all these slimy. It looks like an octopus, but it imagine a crab with zero skeletal structure. It's just like a jellyfish. That's what it looks like. That's you whenever you're pulling all the masks off. Dude, totally defenseless. You have no defense. That's you without your ego.
I think that's us right now, pulling out of everything that we've been, everything we've been taught, not everything we've believed, but a lot of our defenses, specifically with religion, but also philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that perfectly describes the process of you've got this protection, you've got your shell like this, it's established. You've got shelter from the elements, whatever, and then you've kind of outgrown it. It doesn't fit anymore. It's too constricting, and so you pull yourself out of it. And I mean, really, the vulnerability part, like I feel that big time, like because the easy answers are no longer work.
There are no answers. I was asked recently by a mentor of mine who listens to this, but I was telling him that I'm post deconstruction. Like he was like, well, if you had to describe your faith, how would you describe it? I was like, I consider whatever this means to be post deconstruction. Like I've gone through a deconstruction phase, and I'm out of that deconstruction phase to where now I've forgiven the things that I thought I was hurt by, or things that I was hurt by. I've forgiven those things and moved on. And now I'm consciously picking and choosing, like we always did. But now, like I said, consciously doing it, picking and choosing the parts of my theology that I want in my personal theology. post deconstruction, there's I don't know, there's a lot of folks that get to that deconstruction and just call it quits. It seems like that's what he was afraid was happening to me. I think that's what he was afraid was happening to me, was
Yeah.
that, you get the foundational unraveling of some of these core beliefs, and it's easy to be like, oh, well, this is all BS then, and then just walk away. But like we had talked about before, well, I know there's something more. I know that there's more than this body. I feel like I know that there's more than this ego. I know that there's so much evidence that there is a life after death, including what I think, if I can be so vulnerable as to say, I feel like I've been talked to by people that have already passed away, in all the same cliches. I'm talking about lights flashing or just feeling loved.
Yeah.
Like
In
what just happened with you.
In the same way that people would say that the Holy Spirit talks to them.
Yeah.
It's no different. You can't, I can't tell you, well, that's crap. Nobody's talking to you any more than I could say that it's crap that you heard from the Holy Spirit or that you heard from Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's at least the same way.
Yeah. Especially, the means of communication is often the same. Dreams, feelings, other people,
yep,
animals. Oh man, every time me and Ashley, obviously not every time, but enough to where it's noteworthy, we talk about her grandma passed away, and it seemed like every time we talked about her grandma, when we were out back, me and Ashley hang out in our backyard a lot, a hummingbird would show up. Like, and obviously it's not every time, but enough to where it happens a lot.
Mhm.
Like, it's happened in Kansas, it happened in Virginia, it happens here in Georgia. A hummingbird will show up in our backyard and just zip around when we're talking about her grandma. Might be just might be we're looking for our coincidence. Could very well be. Or it could be the Holy Spirit, brother. Or it could be her grandma.
Did you watch that that series? I think it's called Surviving Death. We talked about it because there was a kid that had, I can't remember, basically there were a couple kids that had information that they should not have had. Right. Information about who they were or the life they lived or whatever. And it was just really fascinating. But one of the episodes involved some sisters, like a lady died, and the sisters were recounting what happened at the funeral and all this kind of stuff. And I'm pretty skeptical. Uh-huh. So one of two things: either one, these ladies are lying, or two, what they're talking about is it's just bizarre. It was something like she had said, Susie, if you're here, just come as a sparrow or a cardinal or whatever. And you're like, okay, yeah, people talk about that all the time. Well, they're saying that at the funeral, this cardinal landed on this lady's shoulder, and she's like, what the hell? And she's holding the cardinal, and then it just takes off. Like, that shouldn't happen.
Right. What's funny about that is that cardinal was a male.
Oh, because I don't know if it was a cardinal. It might have been a dove or whatever.
I remember the episode. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
That cardinal was a male. It was bright red, and the female cardinals are brownish red.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Which, maybe goes to reincarnation. I don't know, but or just that.
Well, that's the Tibetans pick their leaders based off of that, and have for hundreds of years. Off of what you're talking about, they'll have this box of say the Dalai Lama, but there's also Trungpas and Rinpoches and all these different holy positions in the Tibetan Buddhists, which was their government back when Tibet still existed. But they'll have this box of all these things that belong to all the Dalai Lamas of the past, and they believe that the Dalai Lama is the same soul, just getting reincarnated every time. And so the Dalai Lama will die. There'll be the prescribed amount of time. And then it's time to go look for a new Dalai Lama. The clouds and the stars will give you the signs where it's time to go look for a new Dalai Lama. They get this box of all, like a toy that the last one had, or a book that the one before him had, or the glasses when it was a female. Like, they have all this stuff, and they'll take it to these kids. There's like some sort of divination. There's this very specific divination of like, hey, it's going to be a female this time, and she's going to be born in this part of the mountain. And you can only see her when the moon is in this phase. So
is the Dalai Lama Buddha?
Yeah, he's Tibetan
Buddhist. Okay.
Yeah, he's Tibetan Buddhist. So like a 10 or 6 to 10 of these monks will descend on this area in pairs, and because everything has to be witnessed by another one, they will have the rattles, or all these things, and there'll be these kids to answer these questions and find these like oh, this was mine, and is what happens in a very specific way. And from what I hear, they're very strict and stringent on it, and that's how they've been finding their leaders for millennia, for thousands of years, is the same way that what you were talking about.
That's interesting.
And as always, this week's episode was brought to you by Steadfast Real Estate Group of Heritage First Realty in Wichita, Kansas. Visit them online at Steadfast, that's SteadfastICT.com, steadfastict.com, or call them at area code 316-461-2806 for all your home buying needs in Wichita, the Wichita area of Kansas. For all your home buying needs in Northeast Georgia, or really all in North Georgia, give me a call. I'm Clayton Blackwood. I'm part of the Hester Group, and we're under Harry Norman Realty. Give me a call at area code 316-409-7907, or visit my website at claytonblackwood.harrynorman.com. Clayton Blackwood is one word, and Harry Norman is one word. You know how the internet works. If you are in the Wichita area and you need a tub painted, call my buddy Jed and his life partner Alex at H&L Resurfacing. Their phone number is area code 316-209-4674. They're both Marine Corps veterans, and that is a locally owned business. They have a track record of success. Okay, next week, or probably in a couple of days, we're going to pick up in a new episode. See you guys then. Love you. Bye.